This is The Raid, exposing the dark world of America's deportation machine. I'm your host, John Carlos Frey. On the podcast today is a gentleman by the name of Brandon Garrison. I've never met him before in person. We talked a few times on the phone, and he came across my number to see if I had any help or any assistance that I could provide for an immigration situation that he's going through. I'm not a lawyer, and neither is Brandon. Brandon married a Venezuelan woman who came to the United States under temporary protective status. She came to the United States legally, they fell in love, and they got married. They were in the process of trying to get her citizenship. When you marry a U.S. citizen, which Brandon is, you can apply for U.S. citizenship for your spouse. And that's what he did. And in the process, because of what's going on with immigration raids, his wife was detained, and she is now sitting in a detention facility for the past 5 months. She's about to be deported back to Venezuela and will never be allowed to come back to the United States. At least there will be a 10-year bar. He's been fighting his case, spending all the money that he has, hiring lawyers, learning about the law. He knows too much about the law. So I decided to put him on the podcast today so that he could tell his story. Brandon, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, how's it going, John?
It's going pretty good. I know that you're struggling a little bit. And for our listeners and our viewers, I thought maybe you could just sort of start with your story. I know you're in the middle of court proceedings and your wife has been detained. But if you could just give me a little bit of background of how this all happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So me and my wife met in late 2024. She was my neighbor. She was renting an efficiency with her kid in the back of my neighbor's house. And the lady was essentially kind of like throwing her out, not because she wasn't paying rent or anything like that, just because that the lady had more family coming in and she wanted that efficiency. And my wife not knowing the law and me kind of overhearing the situation and arguing, I kind of intervened. I explained to her, look, she can't just kick you out. Like, it's against the law. I allowed her to move into my house in a spare room with her kid. It wasn't anything that it didn't start off as anything like, being in a relationship or whatever. It did blossom into that over the next 4 months. And I told her, look, you guys can stay. We have a good thing going on. So everything was fine. In October, we got into an argument. The same lady that was doing all that, the neighbor, called the cops on us. The cops came to the house. They kind of were separating us automatically, like they always do, trying to find somebody to say something that they can arrest somebody. She didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. The cops pretty much said, since you guys have contradictory stories, and this lady's saying that she's a witness, blah, 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 we're going to take you to jail. And of course, within the next 12 hours, she had to detain her. Even if I would have posted it, I think they would have intervened to not let her out anyways. After that point, I was like, okay, well, now we have big problems because her parole expired 2 days after we got married, which was in April of 2025. So we got married on the 17th. Her parole expired on the 19th. It was always our intention to do the paperwork right away and to adjust status. I was not aware that you have to have all your taxes in order and all this stuff. I didn't really look into this. It was not like a planned thing.
Can I ask you just a quick question, just for clarity? Was she still being detained when you guys got married?
No. So we got married in April.
But she was released, right? She was released.
Yeah, no. So when she first came here to the country in 2023, she came here on parole, humanitarian parole from Venezuela. So. And she did it legally. She didn't just show up at the border at the airport.
What is a humanitarian parole?
So with all the unrest stuff that was going on with Maduro and the regime there, and all the people that fled, I think it was 8 million people or something, she was a part of that group.
And the United States offered some kind of allowance for people who were fleeing their home country of Venezuela, allowed them to come to the United States temporarily, at least, for protection,
Correct.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
Correct. So through that humanitarian program, which her dad, who is a U.S. citizen and lives here, um, did kind of what I did. Like he was a petitioner for her, essentially. So she came on humanitarian parole, and she had permission to do so with travel documents submitted to her via UCS, IS, or whatever it is. While she was still in Venezuela, she got that approval. So before she even came here on the plane, she had approval to come to the United States on parole. She flew to Miami, and they essentially paroled her into the country. They didn't provide her a notice to appear. They didn't do anything. They didn't put her in removal proceedings.
She was here
stuff.
legally. Why would they do any of that stuff? Right.
Yeah, correct. So that's pretty much how she came. And it was legal. It was a legal procedure. Everything was done by the book. Now, fast forward to when she, gets detained. So we were married from April until about October is when we got into that argument. And this is when all that stuff happened. We were both arrested. I bonded out. She couldn't bond out. I acquired an attorney right away to start on the process. So DHS and the ICE's government, and like ICE, the government, their arguments, and I provided you all the documentation, is anybody that came on parole, as soon as their parole expires, no matter if they've lived here for years or they've created a life, have a U.S. citizen, husband or wife, all of that doesn't mean anything. As soon as their parole expires, it's like they're back at the border again, which is insane. Like, I don't understand that.
But she never crossed the border illegally. Correct.
That's the thing. So there's a lot of case law right now, and there was just a precedent case in Florida on the 3rd of this month. I'm looking every day for the past 4 months for a case that has the precedent of somebody on parole being granted habeas relief under 1226 and not 1225, which is mandatory detention.
You know too much about the law already for somebody who's not even a lawyer, just having gone through all of this. Just tell me briefly.
I'm doing half.
Yeah, go ahead. Just tell me briefly what habeas is.
So habeas is a federal right to any immigrant or any person in the United States that's unlawfully being detained. And this is their last resort to fight against that unlawful detainment. If you can't get any relief through the regular courts, this is like the last ditch effort for anybody that's being detained, whether it's for a criminal thing or immigration, whatever the case may be. Even on regular lawsuits, once they fail in regular courts, habeas is the last resort for all that stuff.
You're trying to prove that she was illegally detained, and that would then release her from custody. And the claim that you have that the government is saying that they are detaining her is because she's a new arrival, right? They are kind of twisting the law a little bit so that they can detain her, even though she's not a new arrival, even though she came to the United States legally, they are still detaining her, and you're trying to fight that by saying she's being unlawfully detained. Do I have that right?
Yes, in a nutshell, but there's a little caveat to it. So with habeas, and the way it works essentially is you file habeas, the court asks for the state, if they think you have a case, to show cause. So when we did that, the state showed cause, and I sent it to you. They essentially put on there that she came illegally, which that's not the case. We have proof of it. Per their NTA that it says that she was paroled in. They also did a lot of copying and pasting, and they essentially, in their own words, referred to somebody on parole like her that expired. It's like them trying to sneak into a second showing at a movie theater. And that essentially, it's the same thing. So once pretty much the parole expires, you're magically back at the border, regardless if you've been here for years and you've created a life here.
So when the government decided to change the conditions for allowing Venezuelans back into the country is when she should have gone back?
No. So
I don't know how all of a sudden you get her coming in legally. Everything is fine. The government is allowing her to come. She comes on an airplane. She doesn't cross the border illegally. She's here with the right
Correct.
paperwork. Her father petitions for her. And now all of a sudden she's not here legally. I'm kind of disconnected there. I don't get it.
Yeah. So they're blurring the lines essentially. Essentially what they're doing is they're using they're blurring the lines of somebody being on parole, as soon as it expires, it's like they have to go back to the same legal status that they were before they were at parole, which is you were at the border trying to come in. That's their argument, essentially. And there's been a lot of cases all over the United States which have granted people in my wife's same situation habeas relief and put them under statute 1226, which does allow them to get a bond hearing. Right now, my wife can't even go in front of a immigration judge and like get a bond.
If the immigration judge were to grant you bond, that would mean that she could be released from custody and then plead her case outside of any kind of a detention facility, right?
Correct, and rightfully adjust status per the law and her right to marrying a citizen. But they are like they're not. We've asked for them to parole her out since 2 days after she got detained. I've sent multiple letters.
So she was released after you had that domestic squabble. She was released.
No, she was never.
She's been incarcerated since that moment.
Correct. Yeah. So when she got arrested, well, we both got arrested. I bonded out right away. I filed a motion to remove the restraining order on the court, and the reason why I did that is that would get her in front of the judge. We had to wait 30 days because the state attorney's office was like dragging feet on just putting a no file or dropping it. Finally, they did that, and DHS took her into custody right away.
So you were dropping criminal charges, and all that was left was her immigration violation, and that's why she's in custody now. It has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, there's no record. She doesn't have a ticket. She doesn't have anything. And she has a license valid. She has Social Security number. She has work permit. She's filed taxes in the United States. Like, it's crazy.
So how long has she been being detained? How long has she been incarcerated?
Since October 17th, and she went to ICE detention November 14th. She was there for 3 weeks. It wasn't like cells or jail. They were literally on the room and like on the floor because it's like an office building. It's not like a facility.
It's supposed to be a temporary holding space, right?
Well, the ERO office is just like their office. That's where all the ICE.
It's not even meant. It's not even meant to hold human beings for the most part.
Not even like that. No, like if you drive by at night, you can see it's all office space with cubicles and stuff like that upstairs. So she was there for like 2 or 3 weeks. Literally, like I was going there every day trying to get information. Nobody would tell me who her ICE officer was or any of that stuff. I didn't have any emails, but I knew that was the route I needed to go to ask for parole. So I called every number possible. None of the numbers go anywhere. They don't ring. I emailed a bunch of people. I went to the Miami location. Like I did a bunch to finally get the emails. We requested parole and they automatically like said, no, she's not eligible. She needs to be mandatory detention under blah, 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 blah. And we're going to let it go through the courts. I don't know exactly what the rule is or law with that, but there's a law firm in West Palm or in Orlando that's made all kind of cases, 10 habeas cases they won in the last like 2 months, 4 people detained at that location. Essentially what they were doing is they would take her out every 3 days, bring her to the Orlando ERO office for 12 hours, and then take her back to the jail, and she would get a new inmate number. So I was unable for like 3 weeks or whatever it was to put commissary on her books or anything, because every 2 days, by the time the commissary hit her account, she would already be moved out and have a new inmate number. And they did this like 3 or 4 times with her. I had proof of everything.
Do they do that so that you can't?
It was on the news.
So that they do that so you can't find her, so you can't. I don't.
Not so you can't find her, but so they don't break the law. The law is that something along the lines of they can't hold people at that jail longer than 3 days without, I guess, criminal proceedings or
but I mean it's bullshit because they're moving her for a minute and then bringing her right back. So the 3 days start all over again.
Yeah, and this is noted. It's there's like the law firm has pointed it out. It's been on the news. Arroyo law firm in Orlando pointed it out, and they've won multiple cases pointing that out. And it's all documented. They were doing that essentially as a loophole to get over the hurdle of having to abide by that 3 days. Right. Because if they didn't go pick her up at the original jail, right, when the cases got dropped, they have like 48 to 72 hours to go pick her up. If they don't, the jail has to release her.
Got it. Okay. what about your marital status? You guys are married. You're a U.S. citizen.
Yeah,
You can
correct.
petition for her to get legal status. The fact that she's married to a U.S. citizen grants her some kind of ability to stay within the United States. Is that in the works here?
So right away, as soon as she got detained, I filed the I-130, which is the first step for her and my stepdaughter. That's the first step, but it takes 12, 16, 18 months to go through the motions and get processed. Now that they stopped all this stuff and they put pauses on all the immigration stuff and this and that with Trump's new whatever crazy shit he's got going on. Sorry, pardon my French. Essentially, we're not sure how long that could be. It could be indefinite that we're waiting for that I-1. They could literally just not process it and she could sit in there forever.
But
like,
here's the thing, Brandon. She's never committed a crime. She came into the United States legally. She all of a sudden has her status changed, but then you're married to a U.S. citizen. So I would think that the court would grant some kind of leniency and say, hey, this is a person who belongs in the United States. She's married to a U.S. citizen. I don't understand why they're being such idiots about trying to get her out of the country if she's not committing crimes, if she's married to a U.S. citizen, if she has a kid, if she came to the United States legally. I mean, all of these things are in your favor.
yeah, and it seems to be that none of them matter at this point. Like, literally, it's so dumbfounding that, like, all of these key points that you just pointed out is what I feel inside. And this is what I'm like screaming at the top of my lungs inside. But my attorney's like, listen, they really don't care about any of that. This is the process we have to go through is the habeas, because the immigration judge can't do anything for you. He doesn't have jurisdiction. ICE, who does have jurisdiction, won't grant her a parole. They could let her out. I told them, whatever we got to do, ankle monitor, house arrest, whatever.
And do you know why they won't?
Do whatever.
Do you have an idea as to why they're being this way?
I think it's literally just their goal is to get as many people out of the country as they can to meet these dumb quotas that this guy, whatever his name is, Miller, has imposed on the country. And with all the stuff that's like, I don't know. It's a lot to deal with and kind of think about, but it's crazy. Like, I don't know. I don't have anything I can do besides wait for the habeas relief. And if that doesn't go through, I got no choice. I'm going to have to leave the country.
So where are you with your habeas petition? So just so people know, listeners know, there's two court systems that you're dealing with here. One is immigration court, which is separate from federal court system. Immigration court is under the jurisdiction of Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. It's part of the executive branch. So that's the court that basically adjudicates immigration law. And when you keep saying that ICE is responsible here, they're not releasing her, ICE is underneath immigration court. You're dealing with federal court. You're saying there is a violation of federal law, that she was detained unlawfully. That is separate from immigration court. So you're dealing with trying to see if the federal government or the federal court will release her because she's being unlawfully detained. That's sort of the last leg of hope that you have, right? For the most part.
Correct.
Okay, so where is that case? Where is that now?
The judge has to determine if he sees there's merits to the case to ask the state to show cause. So that's what they did. In that first habeas, we requested a TRO, which is a temporary restraining order on removal, to stop her accrual time, because on April 19th of this year, she's going to be subject to a 10-year ban on reentry if she's not out of the country. If she's not able to get out and the habeas doesn't get granted, she's going to have to voluntarily deport before April 19th. If she's not out of the country, she's going to get that 10-year ban, which is irreversible. Nobody can change it. It doesn't matter what court, Supreme Court, it's literally mandatory no matter what forever.
So that 10-year ban is pressure on her to self-deport.
Correct. And that's what we're arguing right now in the habeas case. So we filed our habeas. The state asked them, the judge asked them to show cause. In their cause, like I said earlier, they essentially lied, saying that she came here illegally, which on their notice to appear says that she was paroled. So that was a blatant lie. They also just copied and pasted a bunch of stuff. You could tell that the girl was like overworked and like they didn't really care. And they referred to her situation as her trying to sneak into a second, movie at a movie theater. We responded to all that, and my attorney literally ripped it apart. And that's supposed to be how it works. We file, they give cause, we respond, that's the end of it. And then the judge is supposed to make a ruling. Well, we did respond. Their attorney reached out to my attorney and said, hey, I know I screwed up. Can I amend this? And my attorney said, no, absolutely not. Like, you're not just a mouthpiece. And I was on the call with him. He told her straight up, like, look, you're not just a mouthpiece for these people. You're an attorney. You can clearly see she's eligible to be paroled. She's a prime candidate for that. She has no criminal record. She is eligible to be a U.S. citizen per her husband and being able to adjust status. Just let her out. And this all goes away. They're bringing up new framework and arguments that weren't in the original, reply showing cause. So we just filed yesterday a new temporary restraining order request, pointed out their error on the filing and not asking for leave.
So she's still obviously in detention. You seem to be, from what I'm hearing, you're fighting a court system, not necessarily federal court. You're fighting these immigration laws, which seem to be changing or being amended or being twisted in a way to block every move that you're making. I mean, you have a legal leg to stand on here. You have every right to make these filings. She has the right qualifications to stay in the country, but it seems like immigration court, or at least that part of the federal government, is creating these kind of fictitious laws or agreements or filings to block every move that you're making.
Yeah, and I want to bring up the next major point too. So she is eligible to adjust status right now, right? I can file the I-485 and adjust status. I've already prepared that. My attorney drove from Miami all the way to Jacksonville because she had to sign it physically in person. I rented him a car. I paid him for his time, all that stuff. He went, met with her, got the signature, got all the other information, prepped the I-485. But in order to do this, immigration requires that there's vaccines, a physical exam, as well as some other like syphilis and tuberculosis. Like, she needs all this stuff. So the inmate handbook at Baker County Jail, where she's being detained, says that inmates can be transported to outside medical appointments. Okay. We found 3 doctors in the area that were able to do, like 2 different places that had the vaccines. We looked everywhere, only the 2 closest places, like no one place had all the vaccines essentially that we needed. She needs like 7, right? So this one place, the Department of Health up there had like 3, and then I had to go to another one for like 4 others. And then she needed a physical exam as well.
Brandon, let me stop you for a second. I'm confused. You may have said it and I may have missed it. She needs she needs this medical clearance for what?
It has nothing to do with our marriage. We're legally married through the courts.
Okay.
Right? I have a marriage certificate, all that stuff.
So the vaccines are for what?
It has to adjust status. So because she is married to a U.S. citizen, she is eligible to adjust her status.
Got it.
To be legal under a U.S. citizen marriage. And the terminology for that is, first you have to file the petition, which is the I-130, saying that you're going to petition for this person. And then you have to do the I-485, which is me showing taxes and all this stuff that I make enough money to support her and the kid. That's the next process. But in order to do that, she needs to have a physical exam and like 7 vaccines.
So it's just a requirement of the federal government in order for her to adjust status. She needs these vaccinations to go the next step, basically.
Correct. Okay. And that's anybody that wants to become a U.S. citizen. That's the process.
Got it.
You have to have vaccines.
Thank you for clearing that.
Now, it's much simpler. Yeah, I apologize.
No problem.
It's much simpler if you're outside, because you can go to these multiple appointments and stuff to do that. So there's options, obviously. We figured, okay, well, we'll get the jail. Per their inmate handbook, they'll transport her to outside appointments. So we did all the legwork. We made all the appointments. We found the two places that had the vaccines and another doctor that would do the physical. And we made the appointments, set it all up with the sheriff. We have everything in writing and an agreement with them. My attorney went back and forth with them for 2 weeks getting it all done. They agreed. And then on the day of, the sheriff came back and said, no, sorry, I said we can't transport her. Essentially breaking their own inmate handbook and their own, guidelines of what they allow and don't allow.
She qualifies to be a U.S. citizen. One of the requirements that she's missing are these exams. You find the physicians, you find the places. It's legal for you to remove her from custody so she can go to the doctor, and then they say no. She has the legal right to become a U.S. citizen. She qualifies to become a U.S. citizen, and they're blocking that?
Yeah, they're stonewalling her. They're preventing it.
But what's the point? I mean, you said it's just because they're going to add another tally on their deportation numbers. That's really why they're keeping her from becoming a U.S. citizen and leaving custody.
I mean, I don't understand what else. She doesn't have a criminal record. She pays taxes. She came here legally. She was allowed into the country the right way. She didn't cross the border.
She obviously did not get the medical exams, right?
No, because
they won't let her out.
So the only other option, they won't let the jail transport her to the appointments, number one. And their response essentially was, the sheriff said, I said, if you want to do any of that stuff, you can have the people come to the jail to do it. Okay, so now I had to explore that option. $4,000 they want just to go to the jail to do the physical, because they know they essentially have you by the nuts, the doctors. They know you're in desperate situation. They want to like anything, so price gouging, whatever you want to call it. $4,000 essentially just for the physical. That doesn't even include that person doesn't even do the vaccines. The vaccines, I didn't find anybody that would actually go to the jail to give her the vaccines that were needed. Not one doctor, not one place. I called hundreds. So essentially, it's impossible for me to legally, per her right, adjust status while she's in detention.
And that's on purpose from the government's side. They're blocking
Correct,
you every way that they can.
Correct. They could literally let her out tomorrow on a parole, and we would go do the adjustment of status the next day. I would literally make appointments and go to the doctors. The next day I would go get all this stuff done, and I would literally file the I-45 the next day.
This is your wife? This is your wife? You have a child here as well that,
it's my stepdaughter.
Right.
And that's a whole nother story in itself. In a nutshell, she went back to Venezuela with her grandmother when my wife got detained, because I was going to have to move. I couldn't afford a 3-bedroom house with a 1-person income anymore. And so I had to uproot my whole life and move. I had to figure that out, trying to navigate the stuff with her. So my stepdaughter went back to Venezuela with her grandmother. Unfortunately, lo and behold, this was in late October, Maduro situation happened. And then my stepdaughter and the grandma live a mile from the palace where Maduro was captured. And then I'm freaking out. I'm dealing with that whole situation. In my mind, I'm like, okay, well, they're going to make it another Iraq.
This crazy maze that you have been through in the past few months, just to try and figure out how to get your wife out of jail. I mean, she's not really in a real jail. They call it detention, but she's imprisoned, right? I mean, can I ask you how much money you've spent to try and get this to happen?
Upwards of $15,000 almost total.
And do you have 15,000 lying around? I mean, you've got.
No. I literally exhausted all my savings, to be honest with you. I maxed my credit cards out by paying her commissary every week, to make sure she has some kind of decent food. I've been doing that for months. I send the mom money for my stepdaughter's school and stuff in Venezuela. I had to move. I'm strapped, and I haven't been able to work, which I do remote work from home. I'm depressed. My mental state is done. So I just told my business partner, look, I'm going to take a break until I figure all this stuff out, because I might have to move, out of the country. And that's a whole nother thing that I have no idea how I'm going to afford. But if that's what I have to do, I have to do it.
What do you mean you're going to have to move? You have a court hearing or you have a deadline coming up in April. What happens if she's not granted some kind of legal status, and she's approaching that 10-year bar? You guys are planning to do what?
There's only two options. The options are, if the habeas relief is granted, she would be entitled to a bond. What I made the GoFundMe for essentially is that to help me acquire funds that if God willing, she gets that granted habeas relief and gets a bond, I can pay that and get her out right away, without putting myself even more in debt to this hell of a situation I'm dealing with. In the event that doesn't happen, any funds that would be acquired or support would essentially go towards me having to uproot everything I've ever known to move to another country that I've never been to, and I don't really speak the language fluently either. And I'm kind of like drawn between a couple of different options: Mexico, Colombia, Chile. I have a friend that's been in the United States 20 years. He's like my dad, and he just went on last Tuesday back to Chile because of all this stuff that's going on here. And he had some issues there that he needed to take care of taxes on properties he didn't want to lose. And he's like, well, I'm just leaving, bro. I'm done with the United States. So he's done. He's got a 10-year ban.
Brandon, let me ask you, you are a U.S. citizen, right? Obviously.
Yeah, born and raised in Hollywood, Florida.
Okay. And the best case scenario, at least one of them, is for you to take your family, your wife and your kid, to a foreign country to make a home, to make a life with them, to be with them, right? That's what your government is offering you.
Pretty much that's what they're telling me. They're telling me that your options are go to another country, and if we leave before April 19th, my wife still has a 3-year bar on reentry because she was here more than 6 months unlawfully, supposedly. At 1 year, turns into 10-year ban. So she has a 3-year bar already. So I would have to go live abroad and then go through all these motions in the court again to adjust her status while abroad, which takes 3 years anyways. And then I would have to come back to the United States.
So that's the best you can do.
That's the play that they've left me.
So
that's the play that they left me.
For a woman who came to the United States legally, has married a U.S. citizen, has a kid, qualifies, it appears, for some kind of habeas relief, is not allowed to have her physical and her vaccinations so that she can normalize her status and be with her husband and become a U.S. citizen, all of these great things, no criminal record. The government says your wife needs to get out of the country, so does her kid, and so do you.
In order to keep my family together, that's like the option they left me, So I don't know what else to do. I'm at my wit's end. My attorney said, look, if this habeas isn't granted, like, that's the end of our game. There's nothing else we can do. We can do appeals and this and that, but then that's going to put her over the 10-year ban mark. So her options are sit in there for 2 years waiting for the I-130 to get approved, which it might not, and then she gets a 10-year ban. Or we take one on the chin and say, okay, give us the 3-year ban and we're going to leave the country and we'll figure it out and adjust status abroad. Those are the options.
What are the emotions? I see you're getting emotional. Can I ask what that's about?
I've been dealing with this a lot for like 4 months. I've been indulged in everything immigration. And I never thought, I'll be honest, I voted for Trump the first term, like an idiot. But I was drawn into that. And just everything, with everything that's going on, it's a lot for me to comprehend, what did I do to deserve this? I'm just trying to live my life, and we did everything the right way. And they're backing us into a corner, and how am I being forced to leave the country? I don't understand. We've done everything right. She's not a criminal. We filed all the paperwork. I'm willing to pay whatever money I have to do, and they don't want to let her out. And they don't want to give me any other option besides go abroad and figure it out. And even if I do that, it's not guaranteed. Considering she's here in the States, she can adjust status while she's in the States. That's the legal right. Once she goes outside the country, there's no more right to it. The marriage doesn't mean anything.
Do you have an opinion about your government now?
Yeah, I'm so like sick of it, and the whole thing is I've never been a political person, but I've been consumed with it because of the immigration stuff, and I'm going through that because of the Venezuela stuff, because my stepdaughter is literally living in that situation, and just everything. Like the government is so upside down, and this guy Trump is like it's I don't want to say the wrong words on the podcast, but it's like America is stupid if they vote this guy in or allow the things that are going on, trying to like say like all this stuff. He's like out of his mind, you know. He evolved like he pretty much is depending on social media posts and this whatever president in the whole U.S. has ever done these things. Never.
They're
Never
saying,
in my
though,
life.
I mean, Brandon, the rhetoric or the propaganda, whatever you want to call it, the postings that you're talking about, they're suggesting that we need to clean the country of all of these illegal immigrants, the criminal element. We're going after the worst of the worst. We need to restore America to a safe place. This is for your safety. This is for our security to get rid of all of these people. That's at least
like,
how they're trying to sell it, right?
But it's not a coincidence, the resemblances of the Gestapo and of the Nazi stuff and of like everything else. Like it's like literally the same as like Israel stuff with Palestine, and it's like an authoritarian situation where they're literally trying to control all the narratives. They want to suppress everybody, just obey or we'll send you out of the country. It doesn't matter if you're an American citizen or not. We'll kill you in the street. We'll like this is not the America I grew up in or that I was proud to live in or represent. I'm ashamed of what the fuck is going on. And it's a lot to deal with. And that's why, like, I don't know, like sometimes with all this stuff going on, and I'm like, shit, well, if they're backing me into a corner and I have no option but to go abroad and figure this out, to stay with my family and keep us together, then maybe it's a good thing. Maybe Trump will be gone by then. Maybe the process will be easier. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to find some kind of hope.
None of this is a good thing. None of this is a good thing, Brandon. None of this. It's all insane. It's all twisted. You can't make logic out of this. It doesn't make sense. These are people who are fighting for something that doesn't make any sense, and you're caught up in it. And I'm sorry that you're going through this.
No, I've never thought I would be in this situation. I'm not a very emotional person. I'm very thick-skinned, and I've always.
What are you talking about, man? Your entire life is upside down. You can't even work. All you think about is your child who's in a war zone and your wife who's incarcerated, and none of this is your fault. And you guys didn't do anything wrong. Your government is fucked up. I mean, where are you to turn? You've tried everything legally. This is supposed to be a country that has the rule of law. There are rules on the books that should allow you to live your life freely. And all of that is turned upside down. I totally get why you are where you are. You've tried everything. So I want to give you an opportunity to just talk a little bit about where you are right now, not necessarily emotionally, but it sounds to me like you've got one foot in this country and kind of dipping your toe in other countries because you need to start planning if you have to leave. You created a GoFundMe because you're broke and you need some assistance. So we'll certainly support that and link to that. Anybody listening to the podcast or watching the podcast, please go to the description and you'll see a link to the GoFundMe. So just tell me a little bit about what your day is like from here forward the next couple of months. You said you're researching places to take your family.
The habeas relief happens, or she has to stay in jail for 2 years potentially and get a 10-year ban no matter what. And they could simply deny everything and then she just gets deported and has a 10-year ban anyways after sitting in jail for 2 years. Or we say, hey, we want to take voluntary departure, which doesn't come with a 10-year ban, but she will get a 3-year ban for being here more than 6 months unlawfully.
When do you know?
The immigration judge gave us to March 2nd because the immigration judge, we're going to two different courts.
How is your wife doing? She's in a detention facility.
She's holding up. She's never been in jail in her life. She's very depressed. She's very worried about her kids, especially when she's in jail and the country's getting bombed and they're playing it on the news in the jail and all this stuff. Maduro, this, that, we're going to war. And she was freaking out. And I had to literally fight with her to not tell them, hurry up and just deport me, because she was so worried about the kid. It's a lot, but she's holding up. She calls every day. We messaged through the application. She sent me videos of like the food and stuff that they're giving her, like rotten food. The rice is hard as a rock. It's not cooked. Like, if you've ever cooked rice and didn't put enough water or whatever, like it's pretty bad, the food there. She says that they all the time take people and put them in the holes for weeks. She says that a couple of people that filed habeas cases like ours were taken and put into a hole for days, weeks on end.
What's a hole?
And like a solitary confinement
Wow.
zone.
As a punishment for trying to get released?
Because the jail gets served with a notice. Like my attorney, when we filed the habeas, the sheriff at the jail gets served.
I see.
So when they do that, they're like retaliating against the inmates and put them in solitary confinement.
Which is
they
illegal.
Don't let them get the phones. Correct.
Immigration detention is not supposed to be punitive. It's not a criminal charge. She doesn't have a criminal charge against her. She's there to wait to see if her immigration status is going to be approved. So she's not supposed to be being punished.
The dorm that she's in is in a huge, big open dorm with the cells, and there's no officers in there. That she says there's fights all the time. So yeah, like she's holding up, but it's been tough. And she's multiple times told me, look, I'm like, I had enough. And I just told her, look, I've already paid all this money. I've already started this process. I need to see it through, and you need to see it through, because it's our only option of you getting out and staying in the United States. Either that, or I have to sell all my stuff, try to, accumulate as much as I can to figure out how to go navigate, move into another country I've never been to and I don't speak the language.
And the GoFundMe, to sort of wrap this up, the GoFundMe is to help support whichever way you go. You have exhausted resources, and so you have never put a GoFundMe together, but right now you need some help.
I've always been a person, my whole life, I've lived on my own since I'm 16. Whatever I have, or the little I do have, I have because I bust my butt and I work hard for it. I don't con people. I don't scam people. I have morals. I was raised with morals. I work hard for everything I have, and it's not a lot, but I do work hard for it. I never made a GoFundMe before, and I reluctantly did so because I don't know what else to do. I don't ask for help. I've always been a person that's like, I'm going to figure shit out myself, and I'll whatever I got to do to make it happen. I'm a hustler. Like, I will make it happen, like whatever it is. So.
Okay. Well, hopefully we can help.
Yeah. I mean, I created it more so to kind of like get exposure. Like I created TikTok, got a lot of views on that, posted a lot of good videos, and tried to make some catchy stuff because of the Super Bowl with Bad Bunny, whatever. I made some videos that got some traction. Other people have reached out to me that have like big followings and stuff. Essentially the goal is, if I can light a fire under their ass, maybe UCIS or ICE and DHS will do the right thing and essentially just parole her out.
Hopefully so.
If I can get light, that's they could literally let her out tomorrow. It's their discretion that they could do that because she doesn't have a record. They could literally say tomorrow, okay, we're going to give you an ankle monitor and you got to come check in all these times, whatever. And we would be adjusting status while that happens, but they're not allowing it. We've asked multiple times through email, all the correspondence we have of them denying it. So that essentially is like the GoFundMe is going to go towards either getting a bond or me having to move, like I'm already in the process of selling all my stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at. And that's the only thing that it's for. I'm more so looking for support. The end game and the goal is not to leave the country, obviously. Right. So the money would help if a bond occurs, and that's what I'm praying for every day, that this judge will not be like he's a Trump appointed judge. So what am I going to do, right? I'm already like back, like pretty much fucked, but whatever. We're praying that he sees through the bullshit, and with all the other stuff going on in the world and the United States of immigration, maybe he'll make the right decision and follow his superior judge, who in the same district ruled that somebody on parole should be granted bond under 1226. We just want to live the right way here, bro. Like, we pay taxes, we work. We're not criminals. Like, I've had a criminal record in my life for stupid shit, weed, whatever, back in the day. Nothing crazy. I'm not a felon. And my wife doesn't have any record. Like, we just want to live the life that we should be entitled to live as Americans.
Absolutely.
And she has the right to be here and adjust status, to be a citizen based on her marriage to me. I've been here 37 years. I'm born and raised here. Do I not have, like, is that not good enough? Like, I'm not good enough to petition for my, like, I don't understand. It's like I'm the person being punished here, and I'm fighting to keep her here with me. We're married. We want to live together in the United States. We don't want to go to another country. The plan is to stay here. But if that doesn't happen through grant of habeas relief, I have no choice. I have to leave.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you. I'll make sure that people see the GoFundMe, and you've done nothing wrong, and you do deserve to stay in the United States. So I thank you for taking the time to tell your story.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to The Raid, available wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about our guests and the subjects we cover, please visit our website at theraidpodcast.org.